The courtroom was so quiet, it felt like even the walls were holding their breath. Dust floated in beams of morning sunlight streaming through tall windows, and the creaking of old wooden benches under shifting bodies was the only sound. In the witness stand sat a little girl, 8-year-old Laya, wearing a pale yellow dress, her tiny legs dangling above the floor. She clutched a frayed stuffed bunny, worn thin from countless nights of holding it close. Her big brown eyes were wide but distant, locked on something, or someone, far more comforting than the adults who filled the courtroom. Across from her, her mother sat with a tissue clenched tightly in her fist, her expression a mix of pain and protectiveness. Her lawyer leaned in occasionally, whispering, but her attention never left her daughter. On the opposite side sat the girl's father, rigid, pale, and trembling slightly. He hadn't spoken since the proceedings began, and yet his silence seemed to scream louder than anything said aloud. But Laya wasn't watching him. She wasn't even looking at her mother. Her gaze remained fixed on a figure sitting calmly near the courtroom's wooden barrier. Charlie, a golden retriever with deep, intelligent eyes and a red vest labeled SERVDOG Note Pet. He lay still, alert, his head raised and ears forward. To most people, he looked like any trained animal used for emotional support. But to Laya, Charlie was everything. He wasn't just her companion, he was her voice. Laya hadn't spoken a word in nearly 2 years, not to doctors, not to teachers, not even to her mother. When her father, once the man who used to read bedtime stories and kiss her forehead, exploded in anger one night and shook her so hard she lost consciousness. Something in her went silent, her voice shut down, words betrayed her, and no therapist, no medication, no method of healing had brought it back. Only Charlie. Through him, Laya found her bridge back to the world. Judge Holloway, a stern woman in her 60s known for her icy precision and unbending rules, peered over her glasses at the fragile child in front of her. She softened her tone. "Laya," she said gently, "you don't have to answer anything with words. If you're not ready, you can nod or shake your head. That's okay." Laya blinked but made no movement. She tightened her grip on the bunny. Then her eyes shifted to Charlie, and she moved, barely, a small, subtle swirl in the air with her pinky finger. That was it. But it was everything. Charlie's ears twitched. Then, to the surprise of the courtroom, he stood. He trotted confidently to the front, stood beside Laya, and turned toward the judge. Laya's hand moved again, 2 gentle taps on her chest. Charlie barked. Just once. Gasps echoed across the room. The judge looked startled. "What does that mean?" she asked, turning to the bailiff. Before anyone could respond, a woman from the back of the room, a psychologist who had worked with Laya, stood and spoke. "Your Honor, that was a signal sequence we developed. Laya and Charlie practiced it for months. That bark, that's her way of saying I'm ready. And there's something I need to show you." The room held still. Every eye now watched not the judge, nor the lawyers, but this little girl and her dog. The psychologist walked slowly forward and handed the judge a sealed envelope. "She gave me this yesterday," she said, her voice trembling. She said, "If Charlie barks, you give this to the judge." The judge opened the envelope. Inside was a drawing, a child's drawing. It showed a girl in the corner of a room, arms over her head. A large, angry man towered above her, his face drawn in rough strokes filled with rage. And in the corner, Charlie barking. On the back, in block letters, were the words, "He says he loves me, but I'm only safe when he's not near." The courtroom seemed to stop breathing. Liar's father leapt up. "This is a setup. That dog is trained to respond." But before he could say more, the judge's voice cut like ice. "Sit down, or I will have you removed." Liar didn't flinch. Charlie didn't move. The truth was louder than words. Judge Holloway stared at the drawing in her hands, her fingers trembling. Years on the bench had taught her how to maintain control. Over her courtroom, over her emotions, over the burden of deciding what justice looks like. But right now, she felt it slipping. The weight of one little girl's silent pain crashed down on her like a wave. She looked at Liar, then at Charlie, then at the mother whose eyes now overflowed with silent tears. Then she cleared her throat. "Ma'am," she said, turning to Liar's mother, "I'm granting you full custody of your daughter. Effective immediately." The mother let out a sob, covering her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. The father tried to rise again, face flushed, mouth open to protest, but the bailiff took a step forward. The message was clear, not another word. Still, the room remained quiet, stunned, until the impossible happened. Liar spoke. Her voice was soft, scratchy, like a radio that hadn't been turned on in years. But it came out clear enough to stop even the court reporters typing. "Charlie knows who keeps me safe," she said. "He remembers everything, even when I couldn't." There wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Judge Holloway slowly set down the drawing, then looked again at the golden retriever, still standing guard. "You've said more in one signal than most people do in 1,000 words," she said quietly. "Thank you, Liar." Though she didn't bang the gavel, instead she placed it down gently, not in judgment, but in awe. 6 months later, the sun bathed a quiet park in gold. Liar sat on a wooden bench, sketch pad in her lap, drawing something peaceful. Beside her, Charlie rested, older now, calmer, still wearing his red vest. A little boy approached. "Can I pet your dog?" he asked shyly. Liar looked up, smiled, and said, "Only if you ask him first." The boy tilted his head. "How?" She tapped her chest twice. Charlie barked once, wagged his tail, and rolled onto his back for belly rubs. Liar laughed, a laugh so full of life and light that it turned heads. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't just surviving, she was healing.